Hey guys, so I just finished up my strength block leading into my meet. Right here you are seeing the heaviest lifts of this training block. I had singles at RPE 9 this week on the squat, bench, and deadlift, and honestly it went pretty freaking phenomenal. This is 620 at RPE 9, moving pretty smoothly. Easier than 605 last week. I also hit 330 pounds at RPE 9 on bench press, and then 410 pounds RPE 9 on squat. And these are really, really big numbers for me, even though they aren't necessarily absolute PRs. I believe they are the most I have lifted going into a meet. And just overall for at some maximal RPEs, like not an RPE 10, just feels really, really good. And I credit a lot of this to me just kind of understanding a lot about my own body, what variations I needed to use, how to manage my fatigue, how to pace my training block to develop training momentum, making sure that my sleep and my eating is on point. And just I've learned so much this training block about myself and how to really train myself and what lifts to push volume on and whatnot. So yeah, it's just been an overall very successful block. I do want to discuss the topic about pacing your training block and the importance of that, especially as you are trying to get the most gains. Because a big issue lots of people have is they don't understand what the whole purpose of training weeks in a training cycle are. And the whole point is that you want to accumulate as much productive volume within your overload threshold to create adaptations across the training block with progressively greater degrees of stimulus. And so for myself, most of my training blocks are going to be a 3-week up, 1-week deload type of paradigm, where in those 3 weeks I am going to be accumulating volume, overloading, and then 1 week I take a deload week where I will basically lower down the load, the volume, and then restart again. And it's either going to be 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 for me paradigm of accumulation to deload, just because I have found that that is basically my sweet spot for overload. Anything more or anything less doesn't seem to really do that much for me. However, going into peaking, I do a 3 up, 1 down type of a structure in terms because I don't need that much time to actually peak my strength. But that's a different topic for a different video. Going back to the topic at hand, how do we pace our training blocks to actually see the most progress? What that basically looks like is you want to start off with weights that are conservative at the beginning. You want to be able to put in motion the momentum for these adaptations to be realized later on in the training block. And then later on in those weeks 3, week 4, whatever it may be for you, because we all have different times to peak based off of gender, experience, strength, whatnot. Later on in the training cycle, you can realize more or less those adaptations that you've made and then push it harder in those last couple of weeks of training because one, you have realized those adaptations that you have made from staying in the pocket early on, from training still moderately hard. It's still challenging, but it's nothing that is insane. You can definitely have room to overload. But not only that, you are actually able to push harder because you have a deload week coming up to manage that fatigue. Because as you push closer and closer to failure, there is going to be more fatigue built up as well across the training blocks that you do. Like, you can't just train infinitely forever and get stronger. Fatigue rises linearly with training and across the training block, and it will outpace fitness at some point, and you want to deload basically around that time. And again, you'll know this through experience, through downturns in performance. Will be basically what you'll realize during that time. But I find that the best leading indicator for being overreached or beginning to have signs of overreaching is going to mainly be lack of training motivation. And then I typically notice some mood disturbances in most of my clients where they just get a little bit more crappy or they're just more tired in general. That's going to let you know, hey, I'm getting pretty fatigued. I probably don't have much time left of training, and then you can schedule in a deload accordingly. But yeah, overall, I'm very, very happy with how this training block went. Technique is feeling like it's in a good spot. I think that now my game plan going into the meet is I have a deload week next week, So lower volumes, slightly lower intensities, really freshen myself up for this peaking block, where I will have basically a 2 up, 1 down, where I will peak for 2 weeks, and then I will have a 1 week taper leading into my meet, and from there I will compete on March 6th. So yeah, basically I'm just riding the wave right now, having fun with my training. I think things are going very, very well. Not much else to say. I'm just going to play out the rest of this and show you guys just the training footage and put some music over it. But yeah, 4 weeks out today. Really tired, excited to deload. I'm very, very overreached at this point. Oh, by the way, I did want to address one thing, because I know a lot of people will have questions about bar speed and velocity, and how does that correlate to RPEs? And I want to use my squat right here as a perfect example. So since I have really, really long femurs, it basically means I have to generate more angular momentum, more torque about the knee to actually create force to overcome the moment of inertia. Just because my arc length or radius this is like biomechanics crap that is kind of difficult to explain, but essentially it's harder for me because I have a longer moment arm and have to create more angular torque to overcome the moment of inertia to get above my sticking point. So with squat, I have found that honestly, RPEs aren't really going to look very much like somebody who has a short femur. It's going to basically look like a slight grinder all the time if it's something that's moderately stimulative for me. So something that I actually do with longer femur squatters and people that typically tend to have a tougher time with squats, especially mentally, and as I will mainly use percentages instead of RPEs, just because I understand that everything's going to feel somewhat heavy, everything's going to feel somewhat slow. But I more or less stick to an average percentage of intensity that I want to have for that training session and do as many sets as I have to make sure I have that average intensity. I mean, you can see right here how this is an RPE 9 set, but every single rep kind of looks kind of slow. And that's just how some of your lists are going to move. You're going to find out these things with yourself, but you'll also understand, hey, I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was, and we're all going to have this some lagging lift that's going to kind of be more frustrating for every single one of us to progress. I think that what matters most that you just stay consistent, and then you find an approach that works for you, and that might take a little bit more time, some experimentation. Like I've adjusted a lot of things with my technique, with my stance, with my bar placement, breathing, basically everything on my squat, and it's feeling like it's in a really, really good place right now. I definitely feel like I have a lot more left to give. So when you're judging your own RPEs, again, RPE training is a massive skill. And you are going to learn things about yourself, about the different lifts, about training different muscle groups, and how you basically have to judge your own RPEs. You can use guidelines, but understand that they are only guidelines. And what mostly matters is that you are doing things properly for yourself, and you are sticking to the RPEs and training hard enough to see an adaptation and recover on time for consistent overload training. So yeah, I know that hopefully that made sense. But yeah, I'm just going to play the rest of this out here. And yeah, I am currently 4 weeks out. I'm going to deload next week, and then we'll see what I can put together in the peak with my heaviest weights. I'll go and talk to my coach about strategy going into it, since I have a few ideas I want to try for this peak and taper. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
She say that she a wanderlust, but she ain't seen the world so much to do at 21. You feel invincible, so hard to find someone to trust. She still a daddy's girl, she wanna be an actress and a singer like Selena. And she a movie buff, but she ain't seen Breakfast at Tiffany's or Breakfast Club. That's just before her time, so hard to keep a conversation when your mind's on vacation. You got pretty green eyes, I can see them dollar signs, girl. with them Zans now, girl. Go ahead with your sleepy ass. Go ahead, go ahead. Shawty, give me a reason. You know that I'm leaving. Give me one reason. You know that I'm leaving. I know how to please you, and I stay in the freezer. It's all that you need, so baby, say she shake it for the Instagram and a Twitter page on YouTube. She's a makeup artist, Hollywood apartment. She's a bartender and a part-time model. All her friends are verified. Wow, man, that's so cool. Wow, girl, can we hang out? Let's take 1,000 pictures like the hype beast now. People saying that we're goals. That's